Have you ever imagined a real-life dragon soaring through the sky? Not the kind from fairy tales that breathes fire, but a living, breathing animal as big as a small airplane? Well, millions of years ago, such a creature really existed. It wasn't a dinosaur, but a type of flying reptile called a pterosaur. Its name was Quetzalcoatlus, and it was one of the largest animals to have ever taken to the skies. This creature was so massive and so incredible that it almost seems like it flew right out of a myth. It ruled the skies during the late Cretaceous period, a time when famous dinosaurs like Tyrannosaurus rex and Triceratops roamed the earth below. Imagine looking up and seeing its giant shadow pass over you. The name Quetzalcoatlus, say it with me, Quetzalcoatlus, is a bit of a mouthful, but it has a really cool story behind it. It comes from an ancient god of the Aztec people named Quetzalcoatl. This god was often shown as a feathered serpent, a powerful creature that could fly. When scientists discovered the bones of this enormous flying reptile, they thought the name was a perfect fit for such a majestic and mythical-looking animal. It connects this prehistoric giant to the rich history and stories of the land where it was found. It's a name that captures the wonder and awe that this creature inspires in all of us, reminding us that our planet was once home to beings that were truly legendary. When we think about the time of dinosaurs, we often picture giant creatures walking on land or swimming in the oceans. But the sky had its own titans, and Quetzalcoatlus was the king. These weren't birds, and they weren't dinosaurs. They were a unique group of reptiles that evolved the amazing ability to fly. They had thin, hollow bones which made them light enough to get airborne, but they were also incredibly strong. Quetzalcoatlus represents the peak of pterosaur evolution, the absolute biggest and most impressive of them all. For millions of years it was a dominant presence in the prehistoric sky, a true marvel of nature that pushes the limits of what we thought was possible for a flying animal. Studying Quetzalcoatlus is like being a detective trying to solve a puzzle from the distant past. Every bone, every fossil fragment gives us a new clue about how this incredible animal lived. We want to know how it flew, what it ate, and what its world was like. It's an adventure that takes us back 68 million years, to a time when the world was a very different place. So get ready to spread your wings and join me on a journey to discover the secrets of Quetzalcoatlus, the sky's ancient giant. We're about to explore the life of one of the most spectacular creatures that ever lived on our planet, a true dragon from the Age of Dinosaurs. It's going to be an amazing expedition. The story of Quetzalcoatlus begins not in a jungle or on a remote island, but right in the heart of Texas, in a place called Big Bend National Park. Back in 1971, a young geology student named Douglas A. Lawson was out in the park, searching for fossils. He wasn't looking for a giant flying reptile, he was actually studying ancient rocks. But one day, he stumbled upon something truly extraordinary. He found gigantic hollow wing bones that were unlike anything scientists had ever seen before. He knew right away that these bones belonged to a pterosaur, but the sheer size of them was mind-boggling. It was the first piece of evidence for a flying creature far larger than anyone had ever dared to imagine. After his incredible discovery, Douglas Lawson knew he had to name this new creature something special. He was working in an area that was once part of the Aztec Empire's influence, and he was inspired by their mythology. He chose the name Quetzalcoatlus Northropi. The first part, as we know, honors the feathered serpent god Quetzalcoatl. The second part, Northropi, honors John Jack Northrop, the founder of an aircraft company that designed large, tailless flying wing airplanes. Lawson thought this was a perfect tribute, since Quetzalcoatlus was a real-life flying wing of immense size. So, the name itself is a blend of ancient myth and modern engineering, a fitting title for such a unique and awe-inspiring animal. Finding these first bones was just the beginning of the adventure. Because the bones of pterosaurs are so thin and delicate, they don't fossilize very often. It's incredibly rare to find a complete skeleton. For a long time, all scientists had of Quetzalcoatlus were a few wing bones. This made it very difficult to figure out what the rest of the animal looked like. It was like trying to build a giant puzzle with only a few pieces. Paleontologists had to use their knowledge of other, smaller pterosaurs to make educated guesses about its neck, its head, and its body. It was a huge challenge, but every new fossil discovery, no matter how small, helped to fill in the picture. Over the years, more fossil fragments of Quetzalcoatlus have been found, not just in Texas but in other parts of North America as well. Some of these discoveries included smaller individuals, which gave scientists more clues about how these animals grew and what they looked like at different stages of their lives. Each find is a victory for paleontology, bringing us one step closer to understanding this magnificent creature. The story of its discovery is a great example of how one person's lucky find can completely change our understanding of the prehistoric world. It all started with a curious student in the Texas desert who uncovered the remains of a true sky titan. So, just how big was Quetzalcoatlus? Try to picture this. Its wingspan from the tip of one wing to the tip of the other was about 36 feet or 11 meters. That's as wide as a small private airplane like a Cessna, or even some modern fighter jets. When it stretched its wings, it would have cast a massive shadow on the ground below. Standing on the ground, it was as tall as a giraffe, reaching up to 18 feet high. Its long, stiff neck made up a huge part of its height, allowing it to look around from way up high. It's hard to wrap your head around a flying animal being that enormous, but the fossil evidence proves it. The body of Quetzalcoatlus was surprisingly small and lightweight for its size, which was a key secret to its ability to fly. Its bones were hollow, like straws, and filled with air sacs connected to its respiratory system. This is very similar to the bones of modern birds, which need to be as light as possible to stay in the air. Even though its bones were hollow, they were incredibly strong, with internal struts and supports, almost like the frame of an airplane. This combination of strength and lightness was a masterpiece of natural engineering, allowing this giant to support its massive wings and powerful flight muscles without being too heavy to get off the ground. One of its most striking features was its long, toothless beak. The beak was like a giant pair of tweezers, measuring over 6 feet long. Unlike many other pterosaurs that had mouths full of sharp teeth for catching fish, Quetzalcoatlus had a completely smooth, pointed beak. This has made scientists wonder a lot about what it ate, which we'll get into later. Its head was also topped with a crest, though we're not exactly sure how big or what shape it was. These crests might have been used for display, to attract mates, or to help with steering during flight, like a rudder on a boat. It added to the creature's already unique and impressive appearance. Its wings were not made of feathers like a bird's. Instead, they were formed by a leathery membrane of skin, muscle, and other tissues. This membrane stretched from the side of its body all the way to a super long fourth finger on each hand. Imagine having one finger that was as long as your entire arm. That's what it was like for Quetzalcoatlus. These wings, called patagia, were thin but tough, allowing them to catch the wind and generate the lift needed to carry its huge body through the air. When it was on the ground, it would have folded its wings up neatly, walking on all fours using its front limbs as feet. It must have been an incredible sight to see. For a long time, scientists were stumped by one big question. How could an animal as big as Quetzalcoatlus possibly take off? A bird as big as a giraffe couldn't just flap its wings and leap into the air. It would have been too heavy. For years, some people thought it might have had to run and get up speed like an airplane on a runway, or maybe jump off a high cliff to get airborne. But recent studies have given us a new and exciting idea. It seems that Quetzalcoatlus used a powerful four-limbed launch, something we call a quadrupedal launch. It was a bit like a pole vault, but without the pole. Here's how it likely worked. Standing on all fours with its long wings neatly folded up, Quetzalcoatlus would crouch down low. Then, in one explosive movement, it would push off the ground with its incredibly strong back legs. At the same time, it would use its powerful arm and wing muscles to push down hard, vaulting its body up into the air. This powerful leap would have been enough to get it several feet off the ground, high enough to get that first powerful flap of its massive wings. It was a unique and incredibly efficient way for such a heavy animal to defy gravity and launch itself into the sky. Once it was in the air, Quetzalcoatlus was probably a masterful glider. With its enormous wingspan, it could catch thermal updrafts, which are rising columns of warm air, and soar for hours without needing to flap very much. This is very similar to how modern birds like vultures or eagles fly. By riding these air currents, it could travel long distances across the prehistoric landscape, searching for food while using very little energy. It would have been a calm and graceful sight, a giant silhouette cruising silently and effortlessly across the sky. It was the ultimate long-distance traveler of the Cretaceous period. However, flying wasn't always a gentle glide. When it needed to, Quetzalcoatlus could also use powered flight, flapping its huge wings to gain speed or altitude. Its chest muscles would have been enormous, providing the power needed for each downward stroke of its wings. Scientists believe its flight speed was impressive, possibly reaching up to 80 miles per hour for short periods. Imagine this giant creature, bigger than a small plane, speeding through the air. The combination of powerful flapping and efficient soaring made Quetzalcoatlus a master of the skies, able to handle both long, lazy journeys and quick, powerful movements when needed. It was perfectly adapted for a life in the air. Section 5. What's on the menu for a giant? One of the biggest mysteries surrounding Quetzalcoatlus is its diet. What did an animal with a giant toothless beak actually eat? For a long time, because many other pterosaurs were found near water, scientists thought Quetzalcoatlus must have been a fish eater, skimming the surface of lakes and rivers like a giant skimmer bird. However, recent studies of its anatomy, especially its long, stiff neck, suggest that this might not be the case. Its neck wasn't very flexible, which would have made it difficult to dip its head into the water while flying at high speeds. This has led paleontologists to explore some other fascinating possibilities for its feeding habits. A newer and very popular idea is that Quetzalcoatlus was a terrestrial stalker. That means it spent a lot of its time on the ground, walking on all fours like a giant winged giraffe. With its incredible height, it could easily look over the ferns and small trees of its environment, spotting prey from a distance. It would have walked through the prehistoric landscape and used its long, sharp beak to snatch up any small animals it could find. This could have included small dinosaurs, lizards, mammals, and even the babies of larger dinosaurs. In this way, it would have been like a giant version of a modern stork or heron, a patient predator that stalked its food on the ground. Another question that scientists have is whether Quetzalcoatlus was a social animal or a loner. Did these giants fly in majestic flocks, or did they prefer to live and hunt by themselves? The fossil evidence is a bit mixed. In some places, the bones of several smaller Quetzalcoatlus individuals have been found together. This might suggest that they lived in groups, at least when they were younger. Perhaps they nested in colonies, similar to some modern seabirds, finding safety in numbers. A flock of these giants taking to the sky would have been one of the most incredible sights in the entire animal kingdom. On the other hand, the fossils of the largest individuals are almost always found alone. This could mean that as they got older and bigger, they became more solitary, preferring to roam the vast territories on their own. A fully grown Quetzalcoatlus would have been a top predator with few, if any, natural enemies, so it might not have needed the protection of a group. It's possible that its behavior changed as it aged, starting out in social groups and becoming more independent as an adult. Until we find more fossils, we can only imagine these different scenarios and continue to piece together the life of this amazing creature. Section 6. A world of prehistoric wonders. To truly understand Quetzalcoatlus, we have to picture the world it lived in. It wasn't the jungle-like world we often see in movies. During the late Cretaceous period, about 68 million years ago, the environment in places like Texas was a vast, seasonal floodplain. This means it was a relatively flat landscape with large rivers that would sometimes flood the surrounding plains. There were forests of conifers, ferns, and early flowering plants, but also wide open spaces. It was an environment that offered both places to hide and vast areas to soar over. For a giant flying creature like Quetzalcoatlus, this world provided everything it needed to thrive. Quetzalcoatlus didn't live alone, it shared its world with some of the most famous dinosaurs of all time. Imagine it soaring high above a herd of horned triceratops as they munched on tough plants. It might have seen herds of duck-billed Edmontosaurus migrating across the plains in search of fresh vegetation. And it would have had to be careful, because the king of the dinosaurs, Tyrannosaurus rex, also roamed this land. While a full-grown Quetzalcoatlus in the air was safe, if it was on the ground it could have been a target for a hungry T-Rex. It was a world full of giants, both in the sky and on the land. The climate during this time was generally warmer and more humid than it is today, which supported a rich and diverse ecosystem. The rivers and floodplains would have been teeming with life. There were turtles, crocodiles, and fish in the water, providing potential food sources for many animals. Small mammals, ancestors to the ones we know today, scurried through the undergrowth, trying to avoid being eaten. It was a complex food web, and Quetzalcoatlus, as a large predator, would have been right at the top. Its unique lifestyle, being able to hunt both on the ground and potentially from the air, gave it a special advantage in this bustling prehistoric world. Seeing a Quetzalcoatlus in this environment would have been breathtaking. Picture a misty morning on the floodplain. As the sun rises, a giant, giraffe-sized creature unfolds its massive wings and with a powerful leap, launches itself into the sky. It circles once, its shadow passing over a group of armored ankylosaurus, before gliding away over the treetops in search of its first meal of the day. This is the world Quetzalcoatlus called home, a world of danger, beauty, and incredible natural wonders. It's a world that we can only visit through the fossils these amazing animals left behind for us to find. Section 7. The end of a giant's reign. Just like the mighty dinosaurs it lived with, the reign of Quetzalcoatlus came to a sudden and dramatic end. About 66 million years ago, a catastrophic event changed the world forever. A massive asteroid, estimated to be about 6 miles wide, slammed into the Earth in what is now the Gulf of Mexico. The impact was so powerful that it sent a huge cloud of dust, ash, and debris high into the atmosphere, blocking out the sun for months or even years. This triggered a global winter, causing temperatures to drop dramatically and plants to die off because they couldn't get any sunlight. This environmental collapse had a devastating effect on the entire food chain. With the plants gone, the large plant-eating dinosaurs like Triceratops and Edmontosaurus starved, and with the plant-eaters gone, the meat-eaters that preyed on them, like Tyrannosaurus rex, also ran out of food. Quetzalcoatlus would have faced the same fate. Whether it ate small dinosaurs or other animals, its food source would have disappeared very quickly. The dark, cold world was no place for a giant that needed a huge amount of food to survive. Along with about 75% of all species on Earth, Quetzalcoatlus went extinct, marking the end of the age of reptiles. Even though it's gone, Quetzalcoatlus remains incredibly important to scientists today. It pushes the boundaries of what we thought was biologically possible. How can an animal get that big and still be able to fly? Studying its bones helps engineers and biologists understand the principles of lightweight construction and aerodynamics. Its unique quadrupedal launch gives us new ideas about animal locomotion and the physics of flight. It's a perfect case study in biomechanics, showing how life can evolve incredible solutions to amazing challenges. Every new fossil helps us refine our understanding of this natural marvel. For people everywhere, not just scientists, Quetzalcoatlus is a source of fascination and wonder. It captures our imagination in a way that few other prehistoric animals can. It's a real-life monster that was bigger and more incredible than many of the dragons in our myths and legends. The fact that it actually existed makes it even more exciting. It reminds us that the history of our planet is filled with amazing stories and creatures that we are still just beginning to understand. It encourages us to keep exploring, keep digging, and keep asking questions about the incredible world that came before us. Section 8. Why we still look to the skies for Quetzalcoatlus. Quetzalcoatlus teaches us a powerful lesson about the amazing diversity of life on our planet. It shows us that evolution can produce creatures that seem to defy our expectations and push the limits of what we think is possible. An animal as tall as a giraffe that could fly like a glider is a testament to the creativity of nature. It reminds us that the world has been home to beings far stranger and more magnificent than we can imagine. Studying Quetzalcoatlus helps us appreciate the incredible journey of life on Earth, and the amazing adaptations that have allowed animals to conquer the land, the sea, and even the sky. This giant flyer also serves as a powerful reminder of how fragile life can be. Quetzalcoatlus was a top predator, a master of its environment that had survived for millions of years, yet in the face of a sudden catastrophic change to the planet, it could not survive. Its story, along with the story of the dinosaurs, teaches us about the importance of our own planet's health. It shows how quickly ecosystems can collapse when the environment changes too drastically. It's a lesson from the past that is more important than ever as we face our own environmental challenges in the modern world. The enduring appeal of Quetzalcoatlus lies in its ability to spark our curiosity and imagination. It's an animal that makes us ask, what if? What if these creatures were still alive today? What would it be like to see one soar over our cities? It connects us to a sense of wonder that is essential for science and exploration. It's the kind of creature that inspires a young person to become a paleontologist, an engineer, or an artist. It's a gateway to learning about science, history, and the natural world, all because of its sheer, unbelievable coolness. It proves that learning about the past can be an incredible adventure. So the next time you look up at the sky and see a bird or an airplane, take a moment to think about Quetzalcoatlus. Remember the ancient giant that once ruled those same skies, a creature born of both scientific fact and mythical grandeur. The story of Quetzalcoatlus is still being written, with every new fossil that is unearthed. It's a story that belongs to all of us, a piece of our planet's amazing history. And it's a reminder to always keep looking up, to stay curious, and to never stop being amazed by the incredible wonders of the natural world, both past and present.